Did you ever hang out in the Grandees in Compton?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know any background on the history of that place?
Yeah, I used to go over there with Carl Vernon, Mr. X.
Kev Mac video, you know this is for sure. Kev Mac video, open your soul, represent your ghetto, baby.
We used to have to go over there. We helped integrate the Grandees as far as the West Side Crips and the Compton Crips meeting us. We used to go to the Grandees, the Boot Hills, and all up in there back in the days. And I remember you have to have a certain signal to turn your light on or off to get over in there. But I started going out to Compton through the Hundreds and Carl Vernon, Mr. X.
For the people that don't know, give us a brief bio on who Mr. X is and his relationship to the Grandees and to the West Side.
Well, from my understanding, he moved from out of Compton to the West Side. And Carl Vernon is one of the original founding members of the Hundreds. He ran with Melvin Hardy and all them too, Monk and all them. In fact, he rests in peace. So I knew Carl Vernon when he was claiming Mr. X and was basically the man over in the Grandees. And then he was on the West Side out to Hundreds and souring his soaps over there. So he was a major contribution to the legacy on the West Side as well as Compton also.
Yeah, but Mr. X has dual citizenships because you bump into some people, they label him a Grandee Crip. Bump into other people that nah, he's a block Crip.
Yeah, he was both, but I think he come. Bobby Priest told me that he come from Compton over to the West Side.
I always wonder, Mr. X being a black Crip and also being from Grandee, if the nutty, because you know the Grandees is now Nutty Block, and before that was what 165.
Neighborhood block, 165.
Neighborhood block. So I wonder if that was Mr. X that brought that block Crippin' to Compton.
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but I know he was running the Grandees and he was with the blocks over here and the original founding member of the Crips, that's for sure.
All right, I want to rewind it.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Okay. I want to rewind it back to home base. We stumbled across a name that I wasn't familiar with at first, and then we tied it into one of your homeboys. Supposedly this dude's original East Side Crip, and he moved over there to 83rd Street. I don't know if you know his background, Randall Miles.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been told that he was instrumental on the East Side before he moved to the West Side. Do you know this guy?
Yeah, that's Rayford's brother. Randall got killed by the police up in the Hollywood Bowl about 1974. But Randall used to run with Raymond Washington and them and Wolf and them, the original members over there, where they grew up in Rayford backyard. I learned this from Rayford and his father and his sisters, Sildra and Mama Doo and them and Cynthia. They used to be Slausons. They're older than us. So I used to hear the stories. In fact, Randall had a fight with Raymond one time that Rayford told me about, and he came in with a black eye, and he said he recalled him and his dad, and they talking about that. So Randall got killed during the SLA. Patty Hearst right up in there when they was going through all that and got killed by the police. So Randall had been around Raymond Washington in the early years also on the East Side, and Rayford had been around them and seen them and witnessed them in the backyard because he told me this.
So my question would it be safe to... So Rayford is a co-founder of A-Track.
Yeah, Rayford. Mm-hmm. Rayford, all of us, Rayford, Hunchy, Ex-Con, Devil, I'd say all of them at the early beginnings. Right. I don't put no one in the front and this and that. So
Rayford having an older brother, Randall, as an East Side Crip, is it safe to say that's where Rayford got his Crippin' from, his older brother, the East Side Crip, that ran with Raymond Washington?
I can tell you Rayford knowed about gangs from being around them. But when we was over there in 69 and 70, once again, there was no Crips on that side of town at that time. Now, Rayford might have knew about gang banging, but at that time, 69, 70, 71, Rayford wasn't gang banging, none of that. Rayford was pretty much going to school. He wasn't getting in no trouble. Rayford started really getting in trouble after his brother got killed. Or if Rayford was getting into shit, he wasn't getting caught at that time, early.
Two more subjects. Well, because you said we have to wrap it up, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to get.
Go ahead.
I just want to get his. I want to get his prison journey, his original prison journey, and then I want to tap into him and Draws doing that whole Nipsey walk. How did that even form?
Oh, that's a good question.
And then, if you want to follow up on that.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So, what year did you first go to prison and why?
Prison or why I start going to jail?
Let's start there and we'll move it on up.
I first started going to juvenile hall in the juvenile justice system in about the end of 71, 72, coming in, getting caught with weapons and doing these type of things. I started going to YA. I never went to a county jail. I always went to a state. Nellis, Youth Authority, Paso Robles, Carl Holden, YTS, DeWitt Nelson, Preston, these type of YA ran by the state. And when I started turning 20, then I started going to prison, the state prisons, and I started going there.
Shoot.
So I ended up doing over 30-some years of my life in prison.
Let me ask you about the structure of the YA in the 70s. What were the groups operating inside the jail system back then?
Oh, in the juvenile, you had the Crips and the Bloods, but they wasn't Bloods. They had individual gangs. You know, the Van Ness boys, Pyrus, which really wouldn't be coming down to our juvenile hall. They'd take them to Los Padrinos, usually those from Compton or something. So in L.A. at the juvenile halls, usually be a L.A.-based groups, the Brims, the Denver Lanes, stuff like that. So growing up in there, you had to go to school, march in line, hand-me-down clothes, and these sort of natures and things, take a nap. Your family come visit you. You have little class dances where you meet with the little girls from juvenile. So it was basically like going to school in a camp or something where you go into a school.
Well, was there racial rivalries or gang rivalries in the juvenile system in the 70s?
Well, in the juvenile, for me, it wasn't racial rivalries. It was more like Spanky and our gang, Dennis the Menace, little spats, little fights, and stuff like that. But now, once we started going to prison, then it became a little bit more violent and more deadlier and hands-on because you got older men and you got prison gangs. Now it's a whole different ballgame.
What was the first yard that you landed in?
I learned it at Soledad Central. Me, Mumpy, Guy Walker, Russell Capers, Pierre, Meaty, Big Ant, Wood Rat, James Miller, Zoom, a whole gang of us. Rick ended up being there, Big Rig, then Johnny Parker, Randy Parker, Gooch ended up there. A whole lot of us ended up there over the years. But at the beginning...
And what structures were going on that yard? What were the prison gangs? What was the politics? What were the groups?
Well, they had been starting... the Crips had started breaking up like 76, 77 before I even got there because I knew some of them that was going to the pen like Archie Crump. He had one and made the Black Coats That was one of the first groups to flip from Crips, the Black Coats, the Blue Notes, the Vanguards, the CCOs, UBN. These were some of the politics that were starting to transpire and be created during that time, early in the game.
Were you ever approached to join any of these groups? Did you join any of these groups?
I never was approached where to ask me, because I knew everybody that were in the groups, the players, the frogs, and I knew everybody, but I stayed gangster Crip all the way through it. I just stayed gangster Crip, and I never signed up with the with none of the factions that were politicking in that game. Because for one, I don't like to be, well, for one, ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do. That's the first thing. And for two, I ain't gonna try to tell nobody what to do. Everything in my, what I do, I move on my own or we move together. But I'm not gonna never tell somebody to go do something that I could do myself. So a lot of times they was chaplets in a chain of command and had different politics, and I couldn't get out like that. Plus I knew everybody that were involved, where they might be getting into it with each other, and same thing as on the streets. So,
what was the BGF up and running when you were in there? Did they have power and influence at that time?
Yeah, the BGF had enough power to be where they trying to kill you, and they could make it to where you could get transferred from one prison to the other one, get called out for a ducat and get killed, get ambushed. They was running the prison. You got to remember, like I was saying, we were young men. We didn't know the tricks of the trade or what was going on at these prisons, where these guys would be doing tricks that we never heard of, putting ammonia in the light switch where it blind you when you hit the light, cutting the bars out to where they don't sneak in, hid up under the bed, kill you, put you in the bed, and sneak back out. The police opening the doors while you sleep for them to come in. Nobody seeing nothing. We didn't know nothing about this getting ducats where you get sent to the dentist, and you thinking you going to the dentist, and then you got the BGF sitting around the corner waiting to kill you. We didn't know none of these type of tricks, and it only took from guys getting killed, Crips getting killed in there, Taco and the younger ones, Russell Caper Crimey in 77, that we learned this. It went from us being the hunted to the hunted. It's a whole different ballgame when we started going up in there. These were older men that had been waiting for the Crips to come in here. These were seasoned veterans. You talk about Geronimo Pratt, Ray Browning, Rodney Browning, Doc Holliday, Fleety Grumgo, Hugo Purnell. You talk about some of the biggest boys, George Jackson and these type of cats from that era.
Why were they hunting Crips? What was their issue with the Crips?
Because we are coming in there for doing damage to blacks. Don't forget, they in there, they fighting polices, killing guards and white men, the Ku Klux Klan, and now we coming in talking about we doing this to blacks. They told you got to tuck it. You got to put that blue rag up, tuck it.
So the Crips during your era in prison were more on alert from the BGF than they were from the Mexicans and the whites?
All of them. Everybody was trying to get at the Crips. The only ones that hung with the Crips was the Northern Familiars when you go up north. But everybody else, they pretty much was on Crips' ass. Particularly when it came to like the Mexican Mafia, the ABs, or something like that, because they didn't care where you was from. If you was black, they gonna get at you. And they wasn't playing when they come to get at you.
Did you ever get caught up in any racial riots while you were there?
Numerous riots. Where when the dust settled, people were killed, laid out dead. Where we don't went in, one of them, we was at CRC, and the Aaron Brotherhoods, the ABs, don't tore down a poster. And we go to the BGF, me, Michael Stone, the same one that Orlando ended up killing me, Big Stone, Gary Nettles, Breeze, Daryl Young, and another guy.
Let me ask you this. Where were you at the day that Nipsey got killed? Do you remember where you were at and what was going on?